Welcome to 1000 PS, welcome to beautiful Donington Park, and welcome to the equally stunning first ride of the Panigale V4 R. Now this is a bike that we've seen already being launched at EICMA. We've seen this bike already dominating World Superbikes and British Superbikes. But this is the first time we've had the opportunity to throw a leg over the V4R. And what better place than for me, the home of World Superbikes, here at Donington Park, where the first World Superbike race actually took place. Big news for the V4R is essentially an upgrade in electronics and an upgrade in chassis, and that very distinctive double-sided swinging arm rather than the single-sided swinging arm we've had previously. The last time I rode the V4R was in Misano. We have a video on that bike if you want to hear about the old bike. But today we've had the opportunity to really put the new V4R through its paces at my little home track on standard tyres, no tyre warmers, just go for it and enjoy it. To run through what essentially is the V4R, it's almost a homologation special. So it's 998cc, which means it can be raced in World Superbike. So it's not like the bigger capacity Panigale V4S or the standard, which means it's got 235 horsepower with the race exhaust. And if you add the specialist fuel, it's 239 horsepower quoted. That is a colossal amount of power to come from 998cc. That peak power is at 15,750 RPM. That's an incredible amount of power, which to be fair is pretty on par with what it was previously. But what they've done is given it more torque in the mid-range and given it more drivability with changes to the crank and the changes to the piston. The gearbox, that's a big talking point because first gear is no longer where it should be. So it goes first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, no longer first, neutral, second. So if you want to get neutral, you get to first, you push the lever, you go down and you're in neutral. That means you can't get a false neutral once you're out on track. Something that's been on race bikes for about 5 to 6 years. In terms of electronics, as you would expect, a huge amount of everything to keep you upright. We've got riding modes, race A, race B, a sport, a road, a wet. We've got the new DVO, which is essentially what we've seen before on other Ducati models, which is like having a second brain that kind of guessed or estimate what is going to happen. It's having virtual sensors and knowledge from MotoGP and World Superbikes, allowing you to ride to the limit in a controlled environment. We've got the Race ECBS, which is the combined braking. We've got the Ducati Power Launch, which is the DVO. We've got the wheelie control. We've got 4 power modes. We've got the traction control. We've got the slide control. We've got the quick shifter, as you would expect. There is a huge amount of electronics. It's the first time that Ducati have fitted those level of electronics to the R version. It's similar to what we've seen on the S previously, but obviously everything is recalibrated for the power and weight of the R model. In terms of other significant changes, we've got slightly higher screen. We've got this new grip texture, makes it a little bit easier to hold onto the bike mid-corner. The tank shape has been reshaped. The seat is a little bit wider, a bit roomier, a bit longer. The footrests have moved inwards a little bit, which is what we're seeing on the Panigale V4S. We've got the nice cornering side pods, which in theory increases downforce when the bike is leant over. We've got bigger wings, as you would always expect from Ducati, which gives 25% more downforce over the S model. And we've got more air going into the bike to give it more intake, to give it more power. 6.9 dash, as you would expect, with multiple different modes, depending on how and what you want to see when you're riding. In terms of chassis, in terms of wheelbase, we've got the familiar aluminium alloy front frame that we've seen on other Panigales. 17-litre brushed aluminium fuel tank that looks absolutely stunning. The swinging arm, as we mentioned, is now double side rather than a single side. So that reduces weight and reduces lateral stiffness. The actual having a double arm is actually lighter than having the single arm. We've got the controlled CEBS race braking system. In terms of overall weight, we're up to 186.5 kilograms. That's wet, no fuel. Obviously that weight is reduced when we fit the full race system. Seat height is at 855 and fuel capacity is 17 litres. Suspension wise, Öhlins NPX 2530, fully adjustable front, Öhlins fully adjustable rear, fully adjustable steering damper. In terms of braking, as you would expect, these are the monoblock high pure latest brakes from Brembo. There's a lot going on and a lot to test, but to put it in very, very simple terms, this is a race bike that just happens to have mirrors. The power is incredible, the performance is incredible. In British Superbikes, some of the riders have been using this bike as a kind of test bike, a way of using it as training, but it got to the stage where some of the riders didn't have their bikes ready for the first pre-testing here at Donington Park, and I think it was at Oulton Park. So some of the riders were actually using road-going Panigale V4 Rs with a side stand, with all the electronics removed, and still pushing towards the front in BSB, which just shows the capabilities of this bike. We've done a couple of sessions here today, and it's just a complete eye-opener. I've never known Donington Park feels so small. This is the home of World Superbikes and should be the home of MotoGP, and it's quite a long track, but with this much power and this much ferocity, it feels like it's so much smaller. The over-rev is incredible. Corners where I thought I could maybe use third and fourth, there's no need, you could use second. Second for coppice, just let it scream and let it use all the revs. It's a little bit strange at first because when you're riding it, you feel like you change gear, but the shift light hasn't illuminated yet because you're not revving it hard enough. You're not using all that power. It's incredibly powerful. Braking is unreal. In ABS1, you've got the controlled linked ABS system. So when you release the front, it's still applying a little bit of rear brake to help you into the corner, and you start to feel the bike back in a little bit, but it's all electronically controlled. It's pretty amazing to do, and it feels like you're like a riding god because you can feel the bike move and feel the bike slide. When you come back to ABS2 and ABS3, you're more in control rather than the controlled braking system. So you've got the braking, you've got the power, and then we've been using the standard tyres so you can feel the grip, you can feel how far you can go. Sadly, we haven't got full race slicks with tyre warmers, so you have to be a little bit steady on those first opening laps, but you can feel what's happening. And then as you're going out the old hairpin and you go through Starkies and you can wind it on in third, you can feel the bike moving, you can see the actual live, how much slide control and traction control you're using because it's live on the dash. You can chase the lap time and see the lap times being cut, see the splits being cut. It's almost like a giant video game that could hurt if you got it possibly wrong. It's such an incredible bike. To have 235 or 239 horsepower with the race oil, it's incredible. But what I think it does as well over the previous bike was, when I rode the Panigale V4 R before, it was an incredible, powerful, aggressive bike to ride and hugely fun around Misano, but it was physical. I think the new version is easier to ride. I think it gives more feel. It gives, I don't know if it's the chassis giving it more flex and more feel. I don't know if it's the electronics that have improved, that are giving more feel and more confidence, or maybe it's the front end, or maybe it's a combination of the downforce and everything. But the amount of confidence I've got in the bike, despite the fact it's nearly £40,000, is incredible. It feels like my bike. It feels like I can push to a decent limit without fear of losing the front or losing the rear. It's such an incredible bike. And that is just tickling it. To summarise this bike is quite difficult because it's just almost awe-inspiring. It's got every box ticked. You don't want any better brakes than this. You don't want any more power than this. You don't want any more torque than this. You don't want any more suspension than this. This has got every box ticked. This is as good as it gets. 230, 235, nearly 240 horsepower. That's pretty much as what you need, but it's controllable and it's usable. I mean, that does sound pretty bonking that much power is usable. The electronics are there to help you, not hinder you. especially for riders of fast track days or former riders, especially for fast track day riders and former racers. The level of control that these rider aids give you and the support and the confidence is incredible. It'd be a little bit scary and intimidating to ride this bike without any rider aids, which I know the BSB boys do, but they're obviously professional and way more talented than me. The lap times don't lie. The lap times that the guys are doing on their training bikes in BSB and what Tommy Bridewell did on his training bike in World Superbike is incredible. They're less than half a second in BSB off pole position on their training bikes compared to full-blown BSB bikes on a V4R with no ABS, no electronics and race tyres. That is incredible. I can see why the bike is winning in World Superbikes. I can see why the bike is winning in BSB. I can't wait to see what the bike does at the Northwest and at the TT if it's in some capable hands. What an incredible experience. I didn't think 230 horsepower would be that usable and that controllable. And on top of that, it just happens to look beautiful.